Hi, I'm Margie Basso with EaseLink TV, and I'm here with Luke Whittle talking about wine, and today we're going to be talking about rosé. So welcome, Luke, and we're highlighting this today at the Tinhorn Creek Winery, and I'm hoping just first off to get some background with your blog, which is called Wine Country BC.
That's right. I do a blog and a podcast called Wine Country BC, and it's at winecountrybc.ca. And basically, it's all about BC wine. Any wine grown in British Columbia, I like to talk about it and write about it, and I talk to other people about it, like winemakers and winery owners, all kinds of things. So I do interviews on our podcast, which is available on iTunes.
Fantastic. So I'm hoping that the general public from all over Nosoyas will be checking that out. And in the meantime, we're here with some Tinhorn Creek rosé, and so I'm hoping that you can give us a little bit of information on that.
Yeah, rosé is basically white wine made from red grapes. So when you make red wine, you take the skins, you take the grapes rather, and you crush them up and you stick them in a tank and they ferment. And effectively, the color that comes from red wine is coming from the skins, not from the juice. The juice of red grapes is actually white. And so when you make a rosé, you basically will take the juice off of the skins much earlier than you would if you want to make a red wine. To make a red wine, you'd leave the skins on the juice, the juice in the skins rather, for 2 weeks, 4 weeks sometimes, maybe even longer, depending on the variety. For this wine here, this is the Tinhorn Creek Rosé, this was on the skins for 4 hours. So sometimes it's a matter of hours for how long the juice is in contact with the skins, and they drain the juice off, and it's a beautiful pink color or salmon color sometimes, depending on the variety, and basically it's then continues its life as a white wine, so it's just fermented by itself in a tank with no skins at all.
Now, we've talked about pairing of wine with food before, and when would be a good opportunity or selection for a rosé with food?
Rosé is one of these things it's one of these wines that's really food friendly. You can have it with all kinds of stuff. I had this wine here, I think from the 2011 vintage, right here at Tinhorn Creek. Actually, I was at Miradoro and I had a charcuterie, they had a charcuterie plate here, and it was fabulous. Rosé just lends itself to all kinds of different food types and styles. It's really good with chicken, and it's excellent with turkey dinner. So it's really very good with your holiday turkey. We get that question a lot, where what wine goes with turkey, and that's one of the best ones, I think, is rosé.
Fantastic. That's a really good piece of information. And now, of course, with rosé, we know that whites typically need to be chilled and reds don't necessarily have to be chilled. And what about a rosé?
Rosés should be chilled as well. Some of them, depending on how dark they are, you don't need to chill them quite as much as a white. There's a lot of benefits to having them a little bit warmer, including you'll get more flavor out of it. It won't be so cold. You'll find sometimes that if wine gets too cold, the flavors aren't really that present, or they're not that interesting. But with rosés, because you've got some red component to it, and there's going to be those berry flavors, those will get kind of not erased, but you won't be able to taste them when the wine is too cold. So you want it to be a little bit warmer than, say, a regular white wine.
And so you talked a little bit about flavors. What can one anticipate or expect with a rosé as compared to a white wine or a red wine?
The difference that you'll find between white and rosé is that rosés will include much more red sort of berry flavors and berry fruit flavors. You'll get all kinds of strawberry notes, or even pink grapefruit. So you'll get kind of notes that on the wines that you wouldn't otherwise normally get from a straight white wine typically. White wines like Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, would be very green apple-y. You won't get that in a rosé. You'll get more raspberries or strawberries or pink grapefruit or cranberries, things like that. Those kind of things you would find a little bit in a full red wine, but it wouldn't be quite as it's a little bit subtler on a rosé, but beautiful flavors, and again, it's really, really food friendly because it's not being masked with all these tannins and things like that you'd normally get in the red wines.
Now, if I was shopping for a rosé, then what would I be looking for besides the price range?
Depending on what you're interested in or what you're going to be having, sometimes the varietal, but that really isn't quite as important. With a rosé, price is a big thing, and they're all usually very, they're never usually that expensive. That's kind of the benefits of rosé. They go with all kinds of things, and they are fairly inexpensive relative to other wines. That's what's made rosé very, very popular worldwide over the last 5 to 10 years or so. Rosé has just exploded in terms of popularity because of that. They're accessible. In the wine world, we kind of think of, in the wine criticism world, we kind of think about rosés being kind of not that important, and so there's kind of an anti-frou-frou kind of thing about rosé, where they're really not taken seriously, and because of that, they're very accessible. And so, really, when you're looking for it, honestly, find wine that you really like the color for. And some of them are magnificent colors. There's some beautiful colors and a whole range of colors. Some of them will be very pink. Some of them will be a little more purple. Some of them will be a little more salmon-y color, yellowy kind of thing. And a whole bunch of flavors with everything. And it's really exciting part of the wine world, really.
Well, and of course, I attended and saw you there at the Rosé Revolution this year, and it was hosted at Hester Creek. And just talk a little bit about the Rosé Revolution and what one would expect if they haven't been there before.
Expect a lot of wine and a lot of food. Basically, the Rosé Revolution was started in Australia as a tweet-up, meaning that if you're on Twitter, you get together with other people who are on Twitter and you meet in a place, and then you'd experience something, in that case rosé, and you would kind of talk about it on social media. The Rosé Revolution is basically a way of showcasing the rosés from the South Okanagan, but also the Similkameen as well, and getting together with all the other people who produce rosé and getting them try them all in one big room. It's really difficult to sort of try all the rosés just by picking one at a time, over the weeks. But you can really get a good picture of how the rosés are if you get to try, say, 20 of them in one evening. Carefully, of course, with a designated ride home. But effectively, you get more of a chance to figure out, okay, you know what, this one's really got some nice cherry aromas, and I like that. This one's got more cranberry, and I don't like that sour kind of thing, so I don't like that one. And it's not that it's a bad wine, it's just that that's not what you prefer. So you get a really good chance to figure out what it is you like about a particular rosé at an event such as the Rosé Revolution.
And I think there was at least 15, if not 19, wineries that were showcased at the Wine Revolution. And of course, that's part of our Winter Wine Festival here in the Okanagan. Tinhorn Creek, I'm presuming this one was highlighted there as well. And perhaps you can just give, because I know we have like a background information sheet, which gives a lot of, very succinct information just on how it's growing, what type of soil, etc. So maybe just give us a little bit more pointers on this particular rosé.
This particular rosé is 51% Cabernet Franc and 49% Syrah, grown in the Diamondback Vineyard, which is actually not where Tinhorn Creek is here. It's their vineyards across the valley, near on Black Sage Road, basically. So when you're driving down Black Sage Road, it's huge, expansive vineyards, and actually their vineyards are tucked into all that. This wine for the 2010 vintage, I believe, which is their very first vintage of that rosé. Yes, I think it is. Tinhorn Creek actually won the first Rosé Revolution. At the Rosé Revolution, there's kind of an informal sort of taster's choice, I guess. You get to fill out a little thing and you vote for which one you want. And the Tinhorn Rosé won for the first year that we had the Rosé Revolution, which was at the Fairview Mountain Golf Course, I believe.
And how many years has the Rosé Revolution been going on now? I want to say 3, but...
Yeah, I think this is the third one that just passed in November.
Fantastic event to be going to in the Okanagan, and if you don't know much about rosé wines, definitely a great opportunity, like Luke is mentioning, to be able to taste test, see what you like, and be able to compare with the wineries and meet many of the people that are working year-round at the wineries and meet some of the wine owners themselves. So Luke, anything else that you want to give out to the general public on rosés that they need to know about?
Enjoy them. They're not the sort of the pink. A lot of people think rosés are very sweet. A lot of people think that rosés are still kind of the white Zinfandels that they might have had in university, that one might have had in university. They're not that anymore, and that's an older style of rosé that was popularized in California, and these are not them. So don't be scared of rosés. Probably the biggest thing I would say. And there's a huge adventure awaiting for your taste buds.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Luke. And that's Luke Whittle with Wine Country BC. And we're showcasing today at Tinhorn Creek Winery, talking about rosés. This is Margie Basso with Eastlink TV.